So you've got a service and you've got a list of clients. To me, I call those warm leads because those are the
Mm-hmm.
people that you'll likely be able to sell to the easiest because they're not strangers to you and your brand. I find email marketing to be the most underutilized marketing resource in the industry. I believe that
Yes.
when people who get really good at emails have a really low cost, high optimization and high conversion ability to generate sales. And if I'm your customer and you send me an email, at bare minimum, I'm going to glance at it. In the best case scenario, I'm going to open it and read it. But over time, if you've done that, several times a week or several times a month, and you've sent me an email to announce that you've got this new product and that it's offering tremendous value, then you've got me interested at the least. At a best case, I
Mm-hmm.
go, oh my God, this is perfect. I need exactly this because it's been mentioned in the execution of the services that they provided that this thing was coming. And so leverage email as a starting point.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Hey there, and welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall, and today's episode is a true masterclass in scaling your service-based business by adding physical products to your offerings. So you've built a business that serves your clients well, but now you're asking yourself, what's next? How do I grow without overextending myself? Adding products could be the key to diversifying your income, expanding your reach, and creating new opportunities to engage with your audience, even when you're not actively delivering services. But where do you start? How do you choose the right product, align it with your brand, and ensure that it is profitable? To help us answer these questions, I'm joined by Anthony Standifer, co-founder and CMO of mSEED Group, which is the largest Black woman-owned contract manufacturing facility in the U.S. With over 25 years of experience in the beauty and personal care industry, Anthony has helped over 250 brands turn their ideas into impactful, sellable products. His knowledge goes far beyond beauty, offering insights that apply across industries, making him the perfect guy for this conversation. So if you've ever considered adding products to your business, but you didn't know where to start, this episode will give you the clarity and the tools to take action. So let's get into it. Anthony, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I am truly excited to have you on the show. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. We've been trying to make and cook this thing up for a little while now, so it's exciting that it's finally here.
It's finally here. We made it happen. And I'm so excited to share with my audience about the amazing things that you are doing and to also have you on the show to share your expertise all about scaling beyond services. So how to add products to your service-based business. But before we get into that, I would love it if you could share a little bit about your background. What is it that you do in your business and how did you get here?
Gotcha. Great question. So I'm Anthony Standifer. I have, for my entire adult life, been involved in the beauty and personal care space. So for 25 years now, I've been in some form or fashion of beauty and personal care, primarily to Black and Brown consumers. I started my career, my second job out of undergrad led me to a Black-owned beauty company, Luster Products, here in the Chicago area where I live and reside. And from that day forward, I have been in love with the idea of providing products and services to people, recognizing that beauty products are not just about vanity, but about how people show up in the world. And it's been my passion ever since. And so for 14 years of the 25, I worked in corporate America for a number of large multinational companies, Luster Products, Namaste Laboratories. I spent a good chunk of my time working in different divisions of Revlon here in the United States and abroad, selling products to Black women. And then for the last 10 years, I've had the great fortune of being a full-time entrepreneur and CMO and co-founder of mSEED Group, which is a contract manufacturing facility. And all that means is that we formulate and manufacture products that we don't own, but that we manufacture on behalf of other consumers. And our niche has been that we support founders with small batch manufacturing, which is a huge barrier in the manufacturing space, because anybody that's
Mm-hmm.
gone there knows that, oh, yeah, sure, I'm happy to make that product for you for 15,000 units minimum. And
Mm-hmm.
those kind of minimums are the things that have been roadblocks for many entrepreneurs, and particularly those Black and brown entrepreneurs who have great ideas but don't have the capital to support such large volumes. And so I'm a place that you could come and get 500 units or 1,000 units of something and still get into the marketplace to validate that your idea is good. And then as you scale, I'm also happy to make 100,000 units of that same something, because we're in a space now where we can scale with our clients as they grow and matriculate through the beauty industry.
Wow, such a phenomenal story. And we have a bet here today, you all, because when you said luster, I already knew you were really about this life and been in the game because that is definitely a staple. If you know, you know. Also, just sharing your journey of how many years you've been in this industry. And of course, the fact that we have an audience on the Black to Business podcast that are producing mostly service-based businesses, but trying to understand how can we start to integrate products into those service-based businesses. So I want to talk about understanding the opportunity that's there. So Anthony, can you really break down why adding physical products can be a really transformative step for service-based businesses?
It's foundational because in
Mm-hmm.
most instances, service providers are using products themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to speak in real familiar terms for the Black folks, and then
Yeah.
maybe some slightly unfamiliar elements. And so we all know a barber or hairstylist.
Yep. Yes.
And so they are, as service providers, using products and tools in order to deliver their services. It's foundational to what they do. And so the idea that then these service providers go out and they purchase someone else's product to deliver the services that they deliver is a missed opportunity in some instances, because the idea that they could then formulate their own products that deliver those same results is an opportunity. And it's a space where, even for me, having come out of corporate America,
Mm-hmm.
and having been on the marketing and brand management side, the first brand that I managed inside of Luster Products was one of their salon professional brands, and recognizing that we developed products that stylists would then use in their salon. And so it first and foremost becomes the thing that you can use to deliver those services. Secondarily, it's the ability to then extend the reach of your services, because after your service has been performed and done, how will your target customers remember you? And if you've given them products that they can then use on a regular basis, you've now extended the reach and the depth of your brand. And it sets you apart from likely most other service providers who have overlooked the opportunity. And so while I use the example of the hairstylist, there's so many industries where products are a complement or an enhancement of the
Mm-hmm.
services that are being provided. And so taking the time to really research and think about what is going to offer value. And once you hone in on what that value opportunity is, providing the products to people gives you as a business owner a really, really strong, unique point of difference. And it anchors the people who are taking value and benefit from the products and services that they use of yours.
Well said. And I love the fact that you mentioned like the extending the reach. And it's not just a one and done. So once I cut your hair, that's it. Uh, and I also want to talk about, because we also are in these times where people think I have to simplify everything and my revenue, my income stream should only come from this. Or they're not thinking on ways to diversify. So I want to talk about what are some of those key benefits that service-based entrepreneurs can gain by diversifying their income streams with products.
We got to play the long game here in many
Mm-hmm.
instances. While simplification is, I think, a very good thing for business owners to do, if you are serving the same customer with multiple products and services, to me, that is a simplification that anchors you with great depth to that person. So I go into someone's home and I'm cleaning that home and I'm providing them with a cleaning service. The idea that I'm going to use tools to do that. But when I leave that home, what is going to then facilitate the next call to come clean my home or business again? Products allow you to do that, because the moment you then suggest, recommend, and set up a funnel that allows people to then use your product, you then have a footprint with them when you are not in their presence delivering a service. And so,
Mm,
for me, this idea of diversification of business is key, but be focused. And one of the things that I encourage service providers to do is the idea is not to launch products for the sake of launching products. The
right.
idea is, how can you super serve, not just serve, but super serve your target customer? And if you can super serve people, that is the thing that sets you apart and gives you the benefit that when the next service provider comes by and says, hey, I'm going to offer them this same service for a discount or at a fraction of the cost, people say no, because my existing person does so many things for me and at such a great quality that there's not a need to even consider another option.
Mm-hmm. Super serving and being focused. Great points. And Anthony, now would you say with that there are specific industries because you have lots of years of experience as we talked about before. So based on this experience, would you say that there are specific industries or types of service businesses where adding products works particularly well?
I believe that there's 90% of the market that service
Mm-hmm.
providers could translate the value that they deliver into a physical product that could be delivered. Again, the things that I have the most direct experience with are things that we know and love. So the beauty and personal care industry is near and dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But when I work with business owners across the board, we talk about everything from exterminators to like, well, what are you spraying and offering around the house, to dog walkers and dog groomers, to home care providers, like accountants. Like accountants should be offering products to
Mm-hmm.
people that deliver value beyond the service. So you do my taxes one year and I'm only going to see you once a year. Well, what's going to prevent me from navigating to somebody else? Well, the ability for you to offer something that extends beyond tax season gives me another reason to reach back out to you when it is time to do taxes. I just had a really great call, unrelated to a business owner who has a tutoring company. And so she is a tutor herself and tutors kids for test prep. And as we were talking, my mind went through like two or three potential opportunities that she could leverage amongst her target audience. And the idea that she could now, in the middle of tutoring someone's child for test prep, has the ability to say, well, hey, here's some things that you're going to need after this call. We're not just going to give you assignments to go online and do in order to enhance your test taking abilities, but here's some physical tools that are just going to be helpful. And it doesn't have to be anything that's like mind blowing. It could
Mm-hmm.
be something as simple as calendaring. It could be something, as simple as, hey, if you're going to be doing this, here's paper formatted in a specific way for you to remember how to do these specific math equations that we've talked about. Buy this pack of paper or buy this pack of tools that will then
Mm-hmm.
remind you of the technique and the structure that we're using. And it's as simple as something that you've made in Canva, packaged, and you email out to people. And so just give thought to who is the audience, how can you serve them with your service if you're anchored in services, and then how can you super serve by offering complementary products that add value to that customer and keep your brand visible amongst them.
Hmm. Okay, so that is clicking for a lot of people, which brings me to my next point on choosing the right product to actually add to your business. So, Anthony, what would you say are some of the first steps service based entrepreneurs should take to determine what product to actually create?
Everything is anchored on who is the customer. And
Mm-hmm.
can you sit from their perspective, not your perspective as a service provider, but can you sit in their shoes as your target customer? What is it that he or she is doing on a daily basis? Yes, you're offering a service and there's other service providers, but we're more than just the service that we hire you for. And so,
Right.
how can you understand me from a broader, more holistic perspective? And if you can do that and do that really, really well, you've got something for me. And so I encourage folks to give a real thought to that. Coming top to mind is if you're a tattoo provider or a tattoo artist and you're providing,
Mm-hmm.
a service. Yes, you could potentially offer services to a number of people. And more than likely service providers have a broad spectrum of people that they service. But in getting niche and really specific, who is the ideal customer type? Like who is the person that you can do the least amount of work that gets the most amount of value? And they just delight in the services that you provide. And so if you can connect some data points for that, and so going back to this idea of the tattoo artist, if you find out like your real niche is not for the first or second time person who comes in to get a tattoo because they're nervous, indecisive, and have all of these things. If your niche is really women who love ink and
Mm-hmm.
they are committed to the ink journey like in the long term, then great. You've now got a more niche profile type of somebody that you could say, well, what is a woman who loves ink, who's coming to me for a service maybe for the first or second time? How do I get her back here faster or to remember me the next time she starts to ideate what she's going to think about as her next piece of art? then you've got an opportunity to really have a product ideation session and to think about the types of things that are going to be of value to her. And to me, that's where the magic comes, and your
Mm-hmm.
ability to do that, not just in the tools that you use during the service, but what is she going to need afterwards, or are they going to need after this service that's going to be of value to them? And so really taking that time to
Mm-hmm.
think about those things is the place where I believe greatness happens. And I'm a big fan of niche. So like be super specific. Yes, you can offer tattoo. In my example, you as a tattoo artist can offer services to anyone and everyone that desires to have it. But who is the person with the least amount of effort gets the most value from the services? And can you connect a thread that this profile type is the sweet spot? And if I had 10 times more of these type of people, I'd be making way more money and enjoying the services because they would be delighting in the services that you provide. And now that you know who that profile type is, really ideating around the complementary or direct products that would help them is where the magic is.
That's solid advice. And like they say, there's riches in the niches. So,
Yes, yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So yes. And for a lot of people initially it might be they're on this path where they didn't initially when they created their business think about integrating products. However, along the lines they thought, okay, now is the best time for me to integrate this into my business. So for a lot of people they're thinking, how do I introduce this product or idea but also make sure that it aligns with my brand values and my mission? So how what advice would you give to business owners to make sure that they're ensuring that their product aligns with their values and mission?
Ideate it. And in ideation, talk to some people that you think
Mm-hmm.
are ideal profile types and say, hey, I'm thinking about putting some products together. And here's the type of product that I'm thinking of. Does this sound like something that would be value to you if I offered it to you as an additional product in complement or adjacent to the services that I provide? It's a no-brainer. At that point, if I know you and have some quasi relationship with you as a service provider and you say to me, hey, this is what you're thinking about, I go, that sounds okay. Now, most people are being polite. So in some
Mm-hmm.
instances, if they're existing customers, they may give you the default, oh yeah, that sounds good. But then the second step of that is then go to people who are not your client. And as you're pitching your services to them, ask an additional question and say, hey, we have not done business together yet, and I'm hoping that I can be your preferred service provider in this area. I'm conceptualizing some new products that are a complement to this. Does this sound like something that would be a benefit to you? And if the answer becomes yes for somebody that doesn't know you and doesn't have any skin in the game and telling you no, then I believe you're on to something. And then where you can then go from a broad perspective is how can I now develop and position a product that aligns with your values? And if your
Mm-hmm.
value is consistency, how do you deliver a product that then gives you consistent results time over time over time over time again? If your value proposition as a service provider is luxury, like we deliver it to you, but we give you the best quality. And so then great, let's look at products that really align with this idea of quality. But you've got to be really clear on what is it that is unique about your service that you're providing so that you're not all things to all people, because at that point you mean nothing. But if you're clear that I'm a quality person, don't come to me if you're looking for cheap, because cheap, and as a manufacturer, that's part of my value proposition. Like people don't come to me when they say, well, how cheap can I get these units made? Like that is not the business that I'm in. And so
Mm-hmm.
as a manufacturer, when you come to me and you signal that price is the primary driver for you, I'm quick to make you aware that price is not where I thrive as a manufacturer. I'm going to deliver the highest quality product to you. I'm going to do it in a time frame that is as good or better than industry standard, but I am not the lowest cost provider in my industry. And so
Mm-hmm.
if that's what you're looking for, then there's other options that are out there. And so if I'm looking for products to develop, then it's going to be around those kind of values or priorities because I know that that's who I am as a service provider, as a manufacturer.
And there you have it. And Anthony, one of the things that I've really appreciated throughout this conversation that you've mentioned quite a few times is actually talking to people, talking to your customers, and really getting out there to see what they want and not just assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great strategy. And my question now is what are some of those other strategies that entrepreneurs can use to research and further validate that there is a demand for their product?
Again, the foundational pieces. Talk to people. I believe anybody that
Mm-hmm.
is in business should be having direct conversations with their customers,
Mm-hmm.
existing customers, and not transactional conversations, because in the middle of, you delivering the services that you offer, if you're having a conversation with people, then people are focused on that. But separate and aside, when was the last time you sent an email, or better yet, picked up the phone and scheduled a 20-minute conversation with your customer to say, hey, I'm just checking in on you as a business owner or as a customer, and I want to just see how things are going. Like, what's happening in your world right now? How are you navigating life right now, or navigating business if you're in the B2B space? Really get the opportunity. Now, this is not something you can do every week
Mm-hmm.
or weekly with your customer base, but quarterly, you absolutely can and should be reaching out to customers to have quality of life and quality of business conversations. And in doing so, it becomes a great opportunity for you to then fish and do a little recognizance and business development research on your side, because you've reached out to people in a really human way and not in a transactional way. I believe that that's step number one. Step number two, as you start to think about, like, how do I validate this idea? What are other products that are out there in the marketplace? So if you're
Mm-hmm.
offering a product, like, it's not most people are not launching revolutionary, never before seen products. Well, who's the competition in the marketplace? How much are they selling those products for? Do you think that those products are products that your niche target customer is using? If the answer is yes, great. You now have a benchmark to compete against and to ideate against. And so, how can you make your product better than what's currently available to them in the marketplace? And again, knowing what your value is. If your value is like, hey, I want to be moderately priced, then don't 10x the price or 7x the price of what's already being sold to them. Offer it at the same price, or maybe 20% more or 15% more. And so those are the kinds of discussions and the kind of thinking that a business owner could have as they're starting to think about, well, what product is going to work for me? And then how much am I going to charge for it? And those natural discussions that happen when you start thinking about product development.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And when you're choosing, speaking of choosing the right product for your business, what are some red flags that entrepreneurs should watch out for when they're choosing a product to launch?
Don't make it complicated. You don't need a 7-step system, product-based
Right.
system, in order to deliver results. If you do, you're doing too much. Particularly as a new business and as a new
Right.
product-based business. Go with ideally 1 to 3 products for your first time launch. If you don't have products as a part of your business right now, I highly discourage people from doing like 4, 5, 6-step products. Yes, those are options that are available to the customer, but your job is to make traction and prove that you can actually sell product profitably before
Mm-hmm.
launching, this 20-step collection that's going to be so amazing. Give them 2 and see if you can make it work with the 2, and you can effectively engage, convert, sell, and retain customers over a period of time. So that's my first. Just keep it simple, 1 to 3 products max. As I mentioned, the real game in all of this is not necessarily the product itself, because yes, the product has to deliver. Secondly, do you have any systems that you currently use that will help you facilitate advertising, selling, and re-engaging people? So can you use the same email system? Can you use your same advertising platforms to communicate with people, whether that's on the Google Suite or inside of Meta and some of these other platforms? Are those systems that you can use, or are they new things that you'll have to use in order to engage folks? But just look at what systems you can use, where you can use overlap for what you're using in your service-based business, and then in the places where you need to then level up and use it specifically for your product-based business, then that's where you go. But keep it simple. In the early days, I give people if you got a cell phone, you qualify for advertising. Okay, so you got a
Cell phone.
smartphone, great. If
Right.
you can get and that'll allow you to develop a website if you need
Mm-hmm.
one, which you do. It'll allow you to then engage with people on social media, which is great. And so with those 2 things, you can start a product-based business. Now, that's the bare bones. There's more that you could layer on top of it. But when people try to come and make it like, oh my God, I don't have all of these things together, I'm like, do you got a smartphone? Okay, great. If you got
Mm-hmm.
the smartphone, then you've got what you need, because with that phone alone, you could do what you need to do to at least get out there and start your business itself.
Yes, there are no excuses, no reason why you can't
Oh
start.
yeah, and people talk themselves out of a good time all the
Yeah.
time, and I get it. Fear is real, and
Yeah.
it's a thing that's trying to keep us alive. But in keeping us alive, it's also blocking us from opportunities that could be
Hmm.
really, really amazing for us in the long term.
Yes, I totally agree. Yes. Anthony, now we're going to shift into some of the things that you are working on at mSEED
Yeah.
and also talk about the process of developing and actually launching a product.
Mhm.
So, you are that person for developing. So, can you walk us through the development process from idea to launch?
Yeah, it's a great question. Part of what has to happen is, as the brand founder, it's imperative that you drive the conversation. Doesn't mean that you know everything, but you've got to drive the conversation with a potential manufacturer or someone who's going to partner to produce product on your behalf. And so, in a great scenario, when people, and I'll use my own business as an example, someone coming in and saying, "Hey, I want to develop a conditioner, and can you show me what formulas you have?" That is not the most efficient conversation to have with me. In the course of 10 years, I've probably, and my team has developed probably 3,000 different formulations, and a good portion of those
Hmm.
are conditioners and moisturizers. And so, for me to
Hmm.
lay out every formula that I have to you is not an efficient use of your time. Adjacent to that is also knowing, like, what is the price point that you want to sell your product to your end customer. Like, once you've got everything going, what's the retail price that you want to sell to people? Knowing that, then those 2 points, like who you're serving and then what price do you want to sell at, allows me to not show you the Maserati version of conditioners in my environment when you want to sell a conditioner for 16 bucks. And me showing you the Maserati formula is going to be amazing and you're going to be impressed. And then when I give you the pricing for that and it's a $20 conditioner, you're going to go, wait a minute, that's too
Hmm.
expensive. Well, you chose the Maserati formula because the
Right.
input that you gave me at the beginning wasn't complete. And so, in starting the development process, know who you're serving, know what your price point is. And then the third part is then, well, what bells and whistles are important to you? There are multiple options of things that you could use. If I'm selling t shirts and apparel, like, great, like there's all sorts of thread counts and fabrics that we could be using. Are you the Shein person that wants to go with the whole polyester blend? Or do you want to be like ultra luxe and use
Yeah.
other fabrics that are more expensive and softer to touch and have
Mhm.
other unique values and benefits? Like, knowing those things for you as a business owner, and as someone who's developing a product, is important. And so you can then give input to the person who's going to produce on your behalf so that you get the kind of product that is truly going to spot on meet the needs that you have. Recognizing, and as a manufacturer, I recognize, like, you're not an expert in beauty and product formulation. So give me your wish list. And I may come back to you and say, like, these three things I can do, but these other two things, based on the data points that you provided, I can't go get ancient Swahili lang lang from the continent so that you can do that at the price point that you want. And I just made that up.
Mhm.
But you may have a wish list of something that is beyond the scope of your price point or my capabilities, and I'll let you know explicitly at the beginning of our engagement. And so once that's happened in any good manufacturing scenario, people will then take that input, come back to you with pricing of what it costs for us to develop and produce your idea. And then once you agree to that, it's then about, at least in my environment, we take down payments and deposits. You pay me a deposit to begin research and development work and formulation work. I then put together formulations that I send to you. We go back and forth where you provide me with feedback to say, yeah, this was good. I like the fragrance, but it was a little heavy. Can you make it, a little thinner? Can you, make it a little shinier at the end as an end result? And we then collaborate on a product formulation process that's going to meet the needs of the client that you're trying to super serve. Once we've aligned on that, when we've completed research and development, we then move into manufacturing. And then I'm prepared to then help you go through the process of choosing packaging, jars, bottles. You are responsible for your own brand label and what that's going to look like. So you'll have an idea like, okay, great, I got a graphic designer, they're going to do this. Or MC Group, can you provide me with a graphic designer? No problem. But you're still going to provide them with direction on what your brand ideally looks like from a visual perspective, and then someone else will execute it from our team. And at that point, we're ready to produce. And once we've produced and shipped you product, the ball is officially in your court. And that's where the hard part starts, because people often think that the formulation and manufacturing is going to be the most difficult part. And I quickly let them know, like, that is not the hardest part. The hardest part is, how are you now going to get this finished product into somebody's hands at the price that you said you want to sell it to? Like, that's where the real work starts. But for service providers, they have an instant customer base of people that they're automatically engaging, and it gives them the opportunity to now integrate those products. And so you actually start with a competitive advantage if you have a thriving service-based business where you can integrate products into it, because the person who doesn't is literally going to talk to strangers from the beginning. And introducing yourself
Yes.
and converting strangers is far more difficult than extending the reach that you have with an existing paying service based customer.
Yes, so many great points, Anthony. You really just broke it down for us. I just appreciate that so much.
Yay.
And it raises a lot of questions because you mentioned so many key things that I'm pretty sure people are like, yeah, I was thinking about that. Like the pricing, prices that go into even just creating it. Now you have to then transfer this pricing to how much am I going to charge my customers? So any tips around how entrepreneurs can set the right price point?
Yes. So I say, start with, what do you want to sell this product for? Answering the question of
Mhm.
what you want to sell it for is, what do other products that your target customer is likely purchasing in the marketplace? And so if you find out that, people are typically buying a product for 30 bucks, okay, great. You say, hey, I just want to match what's in the marketplace right now for $30. If you then go through the process, understanding that you're running a business, profitability is what matters most. And as service providers, we automatically understand that profit is queen and rules
Mhm.
over all things. So the idea
Yes.
that I have a $30 product and it costs me $25 to make that product is not a profitable, sustainable, long term business. For product based businesses, I encourage people that you are operating at 60% gross margin at a minimum. Like, if we hit 50%, I'm
Mhm.
going, ooh, we're going to have to make some changes to bring this thing up. But in the early days, if you can make 60% gross margin, then you're in a great space. And so if $30 is your selling point, the 60% gross margin allows you to say, okay, great, that's what I need my cost to be. So as you're then talking to me
Mhm.
as your manufacturer and saying, okay, great, hey, I got these ideas, I'm really looking to do these things, and I come back to you with a cost, again, that is at $25, and you're looking to sell it for 30, you've got your first indicator
Mhm.
that there's a flag on the play. Now you can do one of two things. You can change the variables. Maybe you've asked for, the Rolls Royce of benefits inside of what you're looking for. Maybe I need to get you down into a good Mazda and
Yeah.
give you functional and give you the hard, true, it's going to deliver and give you quality results, but not with all the bells and whistles that you initially outlined, so that we can bring your costs down. And once we've done that, if you do find, okay, well, great, I went from $25 cost of goods down to, you know, 12. Now, great. Now you're in a space
Mhm.
where you can really start to have a green light and a green signal to say, like, your pricing is in a space that makes sense. And those are the indicators that start the conversation on pricing. But my mind, and the thing that I see work best, start at the end. What is your retail price? Understand that you want to make 60% margin as the floor, 50% if you want to go into the basement, recognizing you can't stay at 50% forever, and then
Yeah.
and then move from there. But anything below 50%, and you got a business, but you don't have a business that's going to make profitable money in the long term. And I've seen way too many instances of founders who started a product-based business and were doing top-line sales, but were making no money. And it is imperative, like imperative, that you start with the end in mind, and profit is queen. Your gross margin is what fuels your business and allows you to then do marketing, advertising, promotions, hire people, pay people. And so be really, really intentional about making sure that your margins are solid from day one.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you really drilled that home because so many people are like, oh, this is just something I love to do. And they're not thinking about, not so many, but a lot of people,
Mhm.
they're not thinking about profit and the importance of that in order to scale. So I'm so glad that we talked about the pricing And another thing that you brought up is the branding and packaging.
Mhm.
So, especially when you're launching this product, how important is branding and packaging, and any tips that you can share?
It depends on where you fall on the spectrum. I have certain people who come in and they are so specific about branding and what's the logo going to look like. And oh my God, the
Hmm.
font, it matters so much. And that color doesn't really blend with that color. And if you're that person, Yahtzee, like let's go and do it. But I can point you to any number of brands that are
Hmm.
basic, but they have really the intentional branding. That logo is dominant. That color palette is consistent across the board. And with those two elements, they go to market and build a big customer base. I don't, for instance, find the branding of Uber to be all that exciting.
I agree. It's very simple, basic.
But
Hmm.
you better believe when that square shows up, I know that that is the Uber brand.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, like, they didn't spend eons and eons going through putting together color palettes and font types and all of this other stuff in order to go to market. They said, hey, this is what it is, and we're moving from there. So it's a balance. And again, it depends on where you fall in the spectrum of things. It also depends on who is your target customer. If you're an interior designer and you're giving a high-end interior designer and you're giving basic layouts on products, then that might be challenging. But if you're, the SaaS provider and you're offering some complementary product that is adjacent to the work that you're providing, people are not going to fall out about that. Like, and no one has that expectation that you're giving, Louis Vuitton type branding on your packaging or on your product. The other piece of this is that the other spectrum are people who get overwhelmed by design. And I say, well, great.
Hmm.
If you're in a space, then hire a professional that does branding and graphic design, and allow them to put in front of you ideas and concepts that you can then casually validate yourself and then validate with your intended customer group. But don't overthink it. The worst thing that we can do is overthink it. Packaging for itself, particularly in product based businesses, is all about like who is the brand and what does that logo look like, and then have you clearly communicated what this product does on whatever packaging you have. So I go back to the beauty space. If I'm selling you a body wash, it clearly needs to say body wash.
Yep. Exactly.
And body wash brought to you by whoever the brand is. At a basic, then, okay, you got a body wash by this brand. Is there anything unique and special? So if you're like, hey, it's an all natural jasmine body wash, then put that on the front of the packaging and then move on with life. And so I'm a person who, again, and I'm a person who's a brander and a marketer, and I spend a lot of time doing this work. And so it might seem like not the right thing to say, but I have time and time again. I have a lady, I promise you, it looks like her middle school child put together packaging and the packaging
Hmm.
design. It's like, wow, black and white, no, uh, green and white is the
Hmm.
packaging. And I'm not going to give too many details because then if she's listening, she's going to hear this.
You
But
talking
it's
about
green
me?
and white. And it is the most basic packaging. And she's selling
Uh-huh.
six figures of that stuff every year.
Love it.
Every
Love
year.
it.
And it is amazing to see her. But she's become really,
Hmm.
really good at selling and engaging people and selling the benefits of her products. And so, people are looking at that packaging going, okay, well, it is what it is. But if it can deliver these results,
Yeah.
and so I, fully support the idea of just going, basic and minimalistic in some instances. And then the last point, and I'll get off my lovely soapbox, is recognizing that your branding can change and evolve over time. So what you start with today doesn't have to be what you end with 15 years from now. Doing brand updates and brand refreshes is something that is quite common in the consumer packaged good industry. Most brands that we know have evolved and changed over time. Coca-Cola makes changes
Yeah.
and Coke makes changes to their brand. And they're, the leading, if not the number two, but I believe the number one soft drink company in the world. And if they're making changes to their brand, you can make change to your new product concept that you got in 6 months and decided, I think we need to make some changes and tweaks to this. It is completely okay.
It is completely okay. And another thing that you mentioned, I really want to highlight is, of course, we're talking about service based businesses integrating products into their business. You talked about how to leverage those existing customers. They're not starting from ground zero.
Mhm.
So I want to dive into this point a little bit more on how to successfully launch their product using their and leveraging their current client base. What are some ways that entrepreneurs can do that?
So you've got a service and you've got a list of clients. To me, I call those warm leads because those are the
Mm-hmm.
people that you'll likely be able to sell to the easiest because they're not strangers to you and your brand. I find email marketing to be the most underutilized marketing resource in the industry. I believe that
Yes.
with people who get really good at emails, have a really low cost, high optimization, and high conversion ability to generate sales. And if I'm your customer and you send me an email, at bare minimum, I'm going to glance at it. In the best case scenario, I'm going to open it and read it. But over time, if you've done that, several times a week or several times a month, and you've sent me an email to announce that you've got this new product and that it's offering tremendous value, then you've got me interested at the least. At a best case, I
Mm-hmm.
go, oh my God, this is perfect. I need exactly this because it's been mentioned in the execution of the services that they provided that this thing was coming. And so leverage email as a starting point. Then the second piece is however you're delivering the service, then make a verbal mention that these are things that are coming down the pipeline and we'd like to introduce this product to you. I'm a fan again of good old fashioned phone calls. I'm giving you a quality of life, a quality of business phone call, just checking in with you, seeing how things are going. And oh, by the way, in February, we're going to be rolling out this amazing product. And it's designed to do this, this, and this. We're going to send some emails. So I hope that you take advantage of it early on. And if you get really savvy with it, you say, I'm going to offer the company's offering a 20% discount for the existing customer base. And so take advantage of it because it's only going to be for the first week. And so those are the kinds of things that you can do from the early stage. Find a way to make connection with your existing customer base. Recognize that you're going to have to communicate with those customers multiple times in multiple venues, whether that's social media, whether that's email, whether that's that good old phone call, but you're going to have to tell the same person the same message multiple times in multiple mediums to get them to take real action in any significant volume. And so once you wrap your head around that, then you are fully out the gate. Once you've gotten people to purchase, I love the idea, and again, this is more like a pro tip, is that you use the people that are the early adopters and the early buyers of your products to then get feedback. So if I sell you a product, one of the things that I require of brand owners that I coach is the first 100 people that purchase your product, they get an email and a phone call from you. The email says, hey,
Mm-hmm.
just calling to get some feedback on how things are going. I appreciate you making this product purchase. It's super important to me to know that we're delivering what we think we're delivering. Can you let me know what your honest thoughts on how this product performed for you? And be explicit, your honest thoughts on how this performed for you. And so people then respond. If you don't get the response via email, then you are calling. Hey, it's Anthony. I'm the owner of the business. I know we may or may not have spoken, but I see that you purchased the product. We are just doing our due diligence. And I specifically want to know that I'm delivering what I think I'm delivering. And I'm just reaching out to see if you can give me 2 or 3 minutes to tell me what your thoughts, honest feedback against this product that we sold you is, because I want to make sure that we're positioned well to deliver what we want to mention. So tell me what you like most about it, and then tell me what could be improved. Like those simple actions,
Mm-hmm.
human actions, are the things that will get people to provide to talk to you. And with that feedback, you're going to get a multitude of feedback, but some of them are going to be like, stuff is amazing. I love this. And you say, oh my God, I'm so glad that you said that. Would you mind sending me an email just telling me that? Because I want to be able to use that in some of my future promotional efforts. And then you take those 100 people, and if 30 of them gave you rave reviews, you now have 30 endorsements from people that you can use to promote in your advertising and in your social media to talk about how amazing your product is. And so, like, there's a way to
Mm.
make this work
You
for
just
you.
gave us an entire.
But that's how you build a business. And the goal
Yes.
is not to go out so that you can make $1 million. I mean, if you're Kim Kardashian or
Mm.
Rihanna, you can do a drop and make $1 million in a week. For most of us, we got to work at this thing. And that's how you start to build a base of people. So you don't have to go out and pay influencers to promote your product. Use your existing customers, but be a human being and reach out to people like a human being and ask for their honest feedback.
That is so good. You just gave us an entire script. See, this is why I love the Black to Business podcast. And I love when people like you, Anthony, come on the show to really break things down.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a treat. And finally, I want to shift into scaling and managing the product line.
Okay.
You walked us through idea to launch. Now, once your product is launched, what are some of the best practices for scaling and managing a growing product line?
So some of the best practices are, what are things that you can do that don't involve people that can be replicated? Most times we think about scaling a business and how many people we have to hire and who can do this work and who can manage this process. The world that we live in now says that technology is our friend. What email platform are you using? Do you have a methodology for and a traditional script that can be replicated over time for somebody who comes to your website and looks but doesn't buy? To me, that's an automatic script. Old Navy does a great job of that. I went to Old Navy and I was just browsing because, they sent me an email. I didn't make a purchase. I just was browsing. And Old Navy was like, ha ha, we got you. And so I then got a series of emails that said, hey, did you forget something? Didn't respond to that one. Then a few days later, I got another email that was like, hey, we still got a few more of these in stock. Get it while it lasts. And then I think there was like a third one. And so, that's an instance, big company, but it's an instance that even a small company could do to say, like, how can we use technology to replicate and to develop a process that engages people consistently without a human being having to be there for every single email. So systems, I'm a huge fan of. Once you then are at a space, you are going to have to bring in people and qualified people that can help you to scale your product line. There's a variety of opinions. When I talk to people about who's the best person to hire, it's often facilitated by what can you do and what can people perhaps on your existing team do. If you're a service provider with an existing team, can your existing marketing person take on some of these responsibilities, or is the business to consumer and product-based business just completely outside of their bandwidth? Can you maybe train them or provide them with some training that allows them to speak this new language? And so just identify where the glaring holes are and then choose one. Like, it doesn't mean that you got to hire 10 people. Like, can you find one person that manages central things and manages multiple things across the business? So if it's marketing, then perhaps it's somebody that writes emails in addition to managing the advertising campaigns and managing the back-end platforms for Meta or Google Suites in order to get things out there and in the face of potential leads and customers. So be just intentional about that. It doesn't mean that, you do not have to hire 10 people. In many instances, the world is now a freelance society. So you're able to leverage resources of people that come on as contractors for you to deliver services. I believe that in doing so, there's some pros and cons that come along with that, because anybody that's freelancing is hunting for food to feed their family in multiple spaces. So they don't have an allegiance to one person. They are committed to making sure that, this month they bring in a certain amount of money to feed their family. And you are not the most important thing in their world. If you want to be the most important, then put a ring on it and make an offer for full-time employment. And so those are the kinds of things that we talk about. But in the early days, you may not have that money. So you may have to, deal with people's divided attention and just making sure that you're getting quality work that you're looking for, but recognizing you don't have anybody's full attention.
Yeah, that is some real advice. Put a ring on it and leverage what you have at the moment. And in this, what are some of the metrics that entrepreneurs should track to evaluate the success of their product and then also make informed decisions for the future?
So at a baseline, the proof is in the pudding. Like, sales is a great indicator. So how much product you're selling per month, both in dollars and in units. And it matters to me because in many instances, we can sell a lot of product. But if we have to discount it 30, 40, 50% in order to sell it, then that just means that we have a different kind of challenge. And so dollars and units tracking of sales. And then how many people are you engaging? As service providers, we know all about the idea of engaging in leads and lead generation. So what does the site and what does the traffic on your website look like versus your conversions? What does the following? People rely a lot on social media, which I think is a mistake, because social media is just one small tool of many that can be used to engage. But you can also look at like, hey, well, what does the engagement on social media look like? And social media is designed to top a funnel to get people's awareness, perhaps as a validator as well. So like when people go look and say, well, who's this brand or company? And they go, oh, okay, well, this is who other people say they are based on their social media. But you can look at that as a metric. Those are the top ones. And I'd be really intentional again about bottom line sales, units, and then how many people are you engaging. And your website or web page is a really, really great indicator because most of us are selling online. If you're not selling online and you're selling in person to people or through some other platform, how can you measure how many people you have engaged and then measure the number of people that then converted into sales? So if you're big on trade shows and live events, then keep a track of how many people you actively engaged and then how many people actually purchased. Those are the kinds of things and the kinds of metrics that become really, really key because that's what's going to allow you as an owner to say, man, we're spending a lot of time and a lot of money on something that doesn't seem to be producing at the level that we thought. Like, do we need to tweak our approach in that area? Or maybe we need to move from that completely and try something different.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anthony, one of the things we spoke about earlier is the right fit. I want to talk about also for people who are looking to outsource or just finding the right partners for the manufacturing and distribution process.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips from this for this? And then also maybe some of the things that you do at mSEED Group to make sure that it's a right fit for those you are working with.
Yeah. So when people come and they ask me, like, well, how do I find a manufacturer? My instant question is, what online research have you done at this point? And most of the time, there has not been a significant amount of time and effort put into doing online research. We live in a global society where every business, 98% of businesses, have some sort of digital footprint. If it's nothing more than here's where my business is located. But above that, there's a website that says, this is what I do. And, sometimes the websites are bad, but sometimes they're amazing. So have you really researched beauty manufacturers, t-shirt or apparel manufacturers, planner printing manufacturers? Like, do the online research. AI is amazing. Have you gone to ChatGPT or Claude AI and said, please give me a list of the best 7 manufacturers in this area? Do and take the time to do that online research. I believe you find most of what you need. It's not going to be all, but most of what you need if we just take the time and the effort to do the online research to find out who does and who manufactures in the space that you want to participate in. And then once you've done that, now you know, okay, here's my target customer, here's my retail price, the things that we talked about earlier. When you make contact with those individuals, you can now properly pitch and say, like, this is what I'm looking for. If that information is not available on their website, most of us as manufacturers will have an inbox that says, please tell me more about your project. And you can then give a short synopsis of what you're doing, target customer, target price point, maybe the volume that you want to buy, because you're like, hey, I want to get 500 units to start, or hey, I'm really looking to get 2,000 units of this to get off the ground. But just knowing that information and being intentional about the outreach and recognizing that you're going to do a lot of outreach and possibly not get responses back from all of those people. But your ability to be consistent in your effort is really what's going to determine your long-term success, because nothing in life is handed to us for most of us, and particularly for Black folk. So this idea of hitting on multiple doors is something that we have to get comfortable with doing, even as we're looking for potential manufacturing partners.
Yes. And Anthony, what are some of the services or resources that you offer to help service-based entrepreneurs transition into selling products?
So my niche is in the beauty and personal care space. So I am really intentional about who I'm super serving. For folks that are in that space, I offer a number of coaching services and services inside of mSEED Group. So mSEED Group offers product development services. We offer manufacturing. I also offer some coaching services to help people stage themselves and prepare for launch. Outside of mSEED Group, I'm a part of a number of organizations. Entrepreneur Organization, EO, is one of those. I'm the current president of EO Chicago, and we're an organization that works with 7-figure and above entrepreneurs as a peer-to-peer organization to help us navigate life. and the complexities that come along with life as a business owner, because entrepreneurship is way hard,
Yes.
way hard. And so having a community and a tribe is absolutely imperative if you're going to survive in this game any significant amount of time. And so I encourage everyone, if you're not a seven-figure business, it's completely fine, but you can still identify and locate your tribe. For me as an individual, I encourage folks, follow me on social media. There's a ton of information that I try to provide for free, that gives people tips and tricks and a playbook for how to navigate in the beauty industry, which could also be applied to some other product-based businesses. But if you're in the beauty and personal care space, those are the places where I actively want to engage with folks. So, look for me in those spaces, whether it be mSEED Group or through some of my other social media platforms.
Yes. And speaking of, where can they find you and connect with you online?
Oh, I'm all out here in all the spaces and places. So Instagram and TikTok, I am the Anthony Standifer. So my first name, the Anthony Standifer. On YouTube as well. You can also follow me on LinkedIn at Anthony Standifer and reach out to me there. I'm happy to answer questions if there's questions that people want to know. If it's a quick question, then like DM me. I love those. Comment on some of my posts. I love that. And I'm happy to then engage with folks. And even if I don't know the answer to the question, I may know someone who does and will do my best to traffic you to a person that can provide answers. In doing so, be prepared to ask not smart questions, but thoughtful questions. Because again, if you say, well, who can manufacture this kind of product for me? And you've not done any basic research and not even taken the time to Google it for yourself, it becomes quickly apparent to me that you're looking to be spoon-fed answers. And that's a clear indicator to me. Sometimes we just want the answer quick, and I get it. But be thoughtful and be intentional about the questions that you pose to people. Because when people ask me really thoughtful questions, I'm like, oh, game on. Let me really, really engage with this person and let me open up the resources that I have available to me to try to assist this person, because it's very clear to me that they've done some research, they have a point of view, and they just have hit a roadblock. And I am passionate about helping people move past roadblocks because they're actively doing the work and this thing is just sitting in front of them. So that would be the only advice. Just be intentional. Do your research ahead of time and be intentional about asking what hopefully is a thoughtful question. And even if it's a silly question, like a silly question can still be thoughtful, to say like, hey, I've done this thing and I just got a really basic question. No problem.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer those because I don't want that to be the thing that stands in the way from you taking the next step in pursuing your dream.
Love that and agreed. And Anthony, being in, like you mentioned before, the entrepreneurship space for at least 10 years, what has been the best risk that you've taken looking back?
You know what? So I never planned to be an entrepreneur. I was so
Really?
comfortable in corporate America. Like
Mm-hmm.
I loved the idea of being a really good employee. Like I was in middle management and my aspiration was probably upper management. I loved corporate credit cards. I loved direct deposit. But I was frustrated in many other areas inside of my experience. And so when entrepreneurship came along and presented itself, because it wasn't my idea, it was my current business partner's idea for mSEED Group, I was like, that's amazing. And I was really just trying to help her move her vision along and just offering some advice and some points of view from my perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
then when she asked me, my initial answer was no. Like, I love my direct deposit. And I was working in a place that I didn't like at the time.
Yeah, that is real.
But I recognized that after
Uh-huh.
reflection, like that was a fear based response. And I have qualities and traits inside of me that I don't even, at the time, I had not even fully explored. And so my best decision wasn't just to bet on myself, but it was to move beyond what was comfortable and familiar to me into an unknown space.
Mm-hmm.
Taking that
Mm-hmm.
action and recognizing that it had a lot of trepidation, fear, and a whole lot of other emotions inside of it, but it was also fueled with excitement, has been the thing that has, I believe, sustained me inside of entrepreneurship. Because as I've grown inside of this business and grown inside of the experiences that I've had as an entrepreneurship, the experiences get harder and harder. But I'm at a place now where I recognize it's supposed to be hard because I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking for the extraordinary out of life. And so I can't expect ordinary problems or ordinary situations. And I am becoming more adept and skilled at being comfortable in this uncomfortable space of entrepreneurship. And that's the thing that would never have happened had I not taken that initial, okay, yeah, let's do this. What's the worst that could happen in
Yeah.
starting MC Group?
I love that. Such a beautiful response. And I feel like a lot of people can relate, and that's also a breakthrough for someone. Also, if you had, well, someone's listening, they're in their first year of business, what advice would you give them?
Find your tribe, like
Mm-hmm.
stat.
Yeah.
There is, I had a whole host of friends coming into this thing, and my friends are amazing, accomplished professionals, people that do amazing stuff, but they were not entrepreneurs. And so the experiences that I was having inside of my entrepreneurial journey, there was a consistent gap. The moment I locked in, and it took me 3 years to make to take the action, but the moment I locked in and got intentional about finding a tribe of other entrepreneurs, and I intentionally wanted to be surrounded by people who were more successful than me, as well as people that were not as successful as me. And success is relative here, but you get the point. Because I want to be a person that can contribute, and I want to be a person that can be contributed to in the communities
Mm-hmm.
that I surround myself in. And so,
Mm-hmm.
me finding a tribe that came in the form of EO that we talked about earlier has
Mm-hmm.
been there. But there are so many resources that are out there. But you've got to, take that action to put yourself out there. And for my introvert friends, I know that is a very uncomfortable thing to do, but it is necessary to your survival. And I cannot underscore that even if things are going great right now, there is going to come a time in your entrepreneurial journey, sooner rather than later, where things are going to get really, really murky and potentially really, really hard. And don't make it somebody else's burden to help you through that who has no anchoring in the entrepreneurial journey. So find your tribe of other people. You're a year in, the people that you, and the easiest place to find these people is likely going to be potentially places that people that you consider your competition. So ask those
Mm-hmm.
founders, who are they using and where are they connected, because they likely then will help point you in a direction of like, hey, here's a group, here's an organization, Goldman Sachs, this dish. There's a whole host of people that are out there that are navigating these waters, and you should benefit from being a part of a pact and a community, and your contributions and the things that can be contributed to you.
That is solid advice, Anthony. My final question is, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Mm, it means like everything, and everything in a great way. It is my unique
Mm-hmm.
superpower. I am so glad that I get to be Black. I am so glad that I get to be a business owner, and particularly at this time in life and in history. I mean, it's 2025 right now. If I had been born and I was doing this in 1965, this would be a different situation. Heck, if I
Mm-hmm.
had been doing this in 95, it would be different. But I have the benefit of, as crazy as the world is, there are so many options and opportunities that are available to me right now that I just have to take action on those things. And so I am firmly committed. And part of my personal ethos is making sure that I am using the good fortune that I have to provide access to other entrepreneurs, and particularly Black women, to make sure that they advance in the beauty and personal care space and in entrepreneurship. And I believe firmly that the economic advancement of the Black community as a whole is going to be led by Black women in the next 20 to 30 years. And I'm excited about my commitment to ensuring that that happens and is realized in a way where there is some support for those people that are doing it. And in my support, I will also benefit. But the grounding ethos is that we got to do this as a community, and we have a history of that. And even though the world is crazy and jacked up in many
Mm-hmm.
instances, we still have vestiges of our heritage and who we are as a people. And the idea of supporting one another is so amazing to me. So I absolutely love being Black, and I absolutely love being an entrepreneur in 2025.
I love it. Such a beautiful and powerful response, and us pushing the culture forward together. Anthony, it has truly been a pleasure having you on the show. I have been thoroughly enlightened throughout this conversation, and I just appreciate you and the work that you are doing And we're so happy that you're on the Black to Business podcast.
Yay. Thank you so much. I've really loved our conversation today. I hope that there's some nuggets of value that people can take and actually use.
Okay, so that was an incredible conversation. I hope that you gained so much value from that conversation because I truly did. So we talked about how adding physical products to your service-based business can help you grow in ways that you might not have considered before. And Anthony gave us the blueprint from choosing the right product to aligning it with your audience, pricing it for profit, and launching it successfully. He also reminded us of the power of leveraging our existing clients and keeping things focused and simple as we scale. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in and, of course, for being a part of the Black to Business community. I truly appreciate you for taking this journey with us as we continue to push the culture forward together and break down barriers for Black entrepreneurs. If you want to dive deeper into this topic or check out the resources that Anthony shared, head over to blacktobusiness.com/234. Everything you need is right there. And I cannot wait to chat with you next week. But until then, keep building and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.